Welcome to this Virtual Technology Summit session on building mobile web applications with Oracle Application Express 5.0. My name is David Peake. I'm the Senior Principal Product Manager for Application Express. I've been with Oracle a long time in Australia, New Zealand and the United States, and I'm based in Denver, Colorado. I need to provide the Safe Harbor statement because I will be talking about Oracle Application Express 5.0, which is not yet released, so you cannot make purchasing decisions based on anything I talk about today. So let's get started. First off, I'd like to talk about the paradigm shifts that have happened within enterprises. Initially, IT departments built for the mainframe. Then we moved to client-server technologies. And then after that, we've moved to web technologies. And in more recent times, building a lot of mobile applications, and the latest trend is to build applications for the Internet of Things. These last three have become the new norm of where IT departments build their applications. So we are very much in changing times. Back in '83, when mobile phones were first introduced, they were very large and clunky, and they weighed a lot and also cost a lot of money. In 1993, there were only 600 odd websites. Fast forward to 2013 and there's an estimated 3.85 billion pages. Within the next few years they expect 1 billion smartphone users, and the total mobile application revenue will soar to $46 billion by 2016. If we look at mobile development trends, then the majority of CIOs plan on building a number of mobile applications. The number of mobile application projects will outnumber native PC projects by 4 to 1. And the expected revenue is expected to grow by 88% over the last 5 years. Now let's look at our Oracle Application Express. It's a database-centric development tool for the Oracle database. It's targeted at web-based developers who know SQL and PL SQL, and it's designed to be able to build both desktop and mobile applications. Importantly, it is 100% browser-based for both development and runtime. For your end users to run Application Express applications, all they need to do is be provided a URL and their user credentials. They don't need to download or install any software onto their devices. Application Express provides a declarative framework to very quickly and easily initially build the application, but just as importantly, to very quickly be able to enhance and maintain those applications over the life cycle of the projects. Oracle Application Express, or Oracle Apex, was first released back in 2004, and back then it was actually called HTMLDB. Today I'm going to be talking about Application Express 4.2, which was when we first delivered our mobile capabilities, and also new features that are coming with Application Express 5.0, which is due this financial year. Application Express is a fully supported no-cost feature of the Oracle database. And this means that you can actually utilize any number of developers to build any number of applications with unlimited end users without additional licensing costs. It's supported from Oracle Database 10GR2 all the way through to 12C, and we also have a specialized Oracle support team. That support is included with your Oracle Database maintenance agreement. It can also utilize any other of the Oracle database features such as Exadata, RAC, in-memory, etc. Application Express is distributed with all editions, from Enterprise Edition all the way down to Express Edition of Oracle Database 11G and 12C. One thing to note is that Application Express is released a lot more frequently than the Oracle database, and so we very strongly recommend that you always download the latest version directly from OTN. We also have a number of hosted service capabilities for you. The Oracle Database Cloud Service, which has been around since 2012, is a fully managed service whereby you pay monthly subscription based on the size of the workspace that you need. And we also provide a free development-only service that you can kick the tires with, so to speak, on apex.oracle.com. Application Express utilizes a simple architecture whereby the browser pipes a request through the middle tier through to the database. The database then processes those requests or page submissions and sends the results back as HTML through back to the browser. For the middle tier, we recommend using the Oracle REST Data Services, or ORDS, ORDs can also be used to emit web services from the database. Within the database is a schema for the Application Express engine, which consists of a large number of PL SQL and also a large number of tables. Those tables will represent the metadata of the actual applications. So as a request or page submission comes in, we dynamically render the results or process the page, and it's important to note that we don't do any code generation or file-based compilation. Given that Application Express lives within the Oracle database, then you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to developing your applications, also deploying your applications. So you can develop locally on your laptop or on a desktop, and then when you're finished doing your development, you simply export the application, which is a simple SQL file, and then you can import that into any other environment. You may want to develop on-premise. Generally that's run by the IT department, and they will provision out workspaces to different departments who are then responsible for building their own applications. In a similar way, you can also develop readily in the cloud. You can actually deploy your internet applications out there so that it's available outside of your firewall, or you can utilize the cloud services for very quickly standing up an environment and doing things like prototyping, or simply doing development with an external consulting company, for example. And then once you're finished, exporting those applications and importing them back into your on-premise environment. There's a number of books available on Application Express, and given that we're talking about mobile, I'd like to bring attention to this book. I'm actually one of the co-authors, but don't get any royalties. It's just a very good book for people who are looking to start out with mobile. It goes through a lot of the design principles and then gets into very detailed instructions on how to build mobile applications. Okay, so now let's get you started with getting an environment that you can actually go and play with for yourself. The first thing you need to do is go to apexea.oracle.com. That is our hosted early adopter environment, and you'll be able to utilize Application Express 5.0 early adopter by signing up for a workspace. Once you go to this site, all you need to do is click on Request a Workspace. Then click on Application Development. You'll need to provide us with your email address, a schema name, fill out a short survey, and then the workspace request has been completed. Then you need to go and check your email. Within the email there's a link, and clicking on that link will actually provision the workspace. Until such time as you've actually clicked on that link, the workspace won't be provisioned because of the fact we need to ensure that you've provided a valid email address. Once that's completed, then you can simply click on the Continue to Sign In screen, and you will need to provide your Oracle single sign-on username and password. And then at this stage you'll have a development environment running on Application Express 5.0 early adopter, and you can start developing applications. So now let's focus on mobile web applications. With Application Express, we develop mobile web applications. They're a very popular way to deliver content to mobile devices, and they're a great alternative to developing native mobile applications. Given that they're web-based, there's no need to download and install applications via an application store, and they run on any operating system, desktop, tablet or smartphone. The key thing is that for mobile web applications you do require a browser on your smartphone and an internet connection. You can easily develop these mobile web-based applications using exactly the same framework that you use for building desktop applications within Application Express. One of the key things with web-based applications is the bulk of the functionality is actually executed on the web server rather than on the device. With the latest advances in HTML, CSS and JavaScript, more and more functionality is being able to be incorporated into these web-based applications to provide a richer user experience and better performance. Importantly, they're very easy to develop, maintain and deploy, and as soon as you actually update the application definition on the server, then it's instantly deployed to all mobile devices. As soon as a user requests a new page, they will be receiving the new application, they don't have to go to an app store and do an update or anything like that. They always are running the latest version, which makes it very easy for maintaining your user integrity, which makes it much easier to maintain the same version of the software across everybody's device. However, there are limitations with web-based mobile applications. Typically, browsers don't have access to things such as GPS and the camera. Web applications are often slower than native applications because of the fact that they need to communicate through the browser. And most importantly, they require a permanent internet connection. Now, if you're running an Application Express application on your mobile device and your service drops out, providing that you don't actually request a new page or do a page submission, then it's not trying to talk back to the server. So if you then go back into an area where you've got connectivity again and then do your page submission, then it will actually work correctly for you. There are also alternatives such as PhoneGap and Titanium, which allow you to wrapper these web-based applications and create a pseudo-native application. It will actually be a native application, however it will still be communicating through to the server through URL calls, and as such the internet connection is still required. When it comes to Application Express, the desktop applications that you can build are actually web-based applications as well, so you could actually run them on mobile devices, and they will generally work. However, it may not be ideal for smaller screens. If you've got large reports or multiple regions, then often the users will have to scroll around a lot or zoom in and zoom out on their smartphones to be able to see the content on a desktop-based application that they're running on their mobile. With Application Express 4.2 that was released in late 2012, we actually introduced a mobile-enabled theme based on jQuery Mobile. This provides a more native-like mobile user experience and is optimized for mobile screens and touch interfaces, and we can also utilize events such as touch, orientation change, etc. When it comes to building desktop applications, you can also build responsive web pages. These pages are designed to do a best fit for any size screen. So if you're running on a full desktop, it will show it in a normal manner. However, if you're running it on a small mobile device, then it will do things such as moving regions underneath each other rather than being horizontally across the page. On forms, instead of having the labels to the left of the items, they'll move them to on top of the items. As such, desktop applications built with responsive web design are very useful for things such as marketing applications and things like that, where you only have one application that works well on desktop and also works relatively well on a mobile device. However, they're not nearly as well suited for applications where you're doing data entry and things like that. So it depends on your use case whether you're better to have a single application with desktop responsive design, or build both desktop and mobile applications, or simply a mobile application. Just to note, the jQuery mobile framework that we utilize is also responsive, so those mobile applications will be responsive as well, so it will make a difference whether you're running it on a large tablet such as an iPad or on a small smartphone. Now let's look at building applications. So Application Express provides declarative support for building mobile web applications. In fact, Application Express applications can support both desktop and mobile user interfaces within the same application. When you have both user interfaces, then each individual page must be defined as either desktop or mobile, as each page can only support a single user interface. Each user interface also has its own theme, login page, home page, and global page. Global pages are where you store common items such as navigation lists and things such as that. By default, we also incorporate auto detection, so therefore if you've got both desktop and mobile and you utilize the same URL on your desktop application, it will display your desktop pages. However, if you run that URL on a mobile device, it will display the mobile pages within the application. Within Application Express, we provide a number of wizards. The Create Application Wizard and Page Wizards determine, based on the user interface that you're using, what components are available. So if you're creating a mobile page, then it will come up with mobile specific page types such as list views and forms. One of the key things with a mobile application is the way that you design your application needs to be designed for a small form factor, and that's why things like lists are very important. We also provide the ability to create HTML5 charts and calendars. Importantly, there are some desktop region types which are not recommended for mobile devices, such as interactive reports, tabular forms, and master detail. Application Express also has mobile specific item types such as text fields, which has subtypes of email, phone, and URL. These are particularly useful when you're entering data onto a mobile device. For example, when you go to a phone number, the numbers come up instead of letters. When you go to the URL, instead of having a space bar, you have a slash and a .com because spaces aren't allowed in URLs. We also have HTML5 item types and HTML5 attributes. With desktop applications, we have what's called Flash preferred charts, which if Flash is available, for example on a desktop, then it will actually render the charts with Flash. Otherwise it will render HTML5 charts. However, for our mobile based applications, we have HTML5 charts directly, which are the best performing and provide the best results on mobile user interfaces. We also have mobile calendars, and these are customizable through CSS. They include a list view so that you can actually see a list of all your entries rather than on a calendar format. When you select a specific day, then the entries for that day are shown below the calendar. With Application Express 5.0, we're introducing the column toggle report. And the great thing about the column toggle report is developers can define different priorities to different columns. So if you're running on a tablet, for example, you might get 6 of the available 10 columns. If you're running on a smartphone, you might get 4 if it's in portrait and only 3 if it's in landscape, for example. The users can also toggle the columns that they want to display very readily by utilizing a built-in widget that they can just select the columns that are important to them and uncheck ones which they don't want to see. Another new reporting capability being introduced in Application Express 5.0 is the reflow report. When you're displaying on a large enough device, it will show standard table columns and it will actually wrap the data within those columns. However, when you're displaying on a small device, then it will change that into a stacked presentation or label data pairs for each row. We're also introducing panels in Application Express 5.0, and we are primarily looking to utilize these panels for navigation. Now let's look at deploying applications. If you're building in-house applications, you'll be generally deploying that on your internal instance that's managed by your IT department, and users can access that from their mobile devices. Generally, they will need to utilize something such as a VPN to access the internal network. For public-facing applications, the applications need to be installed into an Application Express instance that is accessible from the internet, such as a cloud service. For users running these applications, then all they need to do is on their smartphone bring up their browser, enter in their appropriate URL. With most browsers you can actually save those URLs to your home screen, and if you're utilizing something such as PhoneGap or Titanium, then you can download the application as we mentioned earlier. Purdue Pharma is an interesting customer. They've built their own custom CRM system with Application Express and been using it for many years, and they wanted to provide a better alternative for their sales force. And so they actually developed a complete mobile user interface in 90 days. This is now deployed to around 800 sales representatives, primarily using iPads. In fact, there's an article that's been written up in the Oracle magazine that the URL on this page will actually take you to. So now let's get into the demonstration. So before I start actually demonstrating the tool, what I'd like to do is just go to our OTN page. So I'm just going to go to otn.oracle.com/apex. And this is the main source for information for Application Express. So this is our main home page, and if I scroll down here, you'll see that there's a Getting Started page, and so I'm just going to click on that. And depending on what way you find the best way to learn, then you should be able to find useful links to those environments. For example, there's apex.oracle.com, which I'll show you a bit later. There's access to the database cloud service, various different ways that you can get at a workspace to start playing with and working with Application Express. There's a number of videos up on the YouTube channel. There's Oracle by examples, and I'd just like to dive into this if I may. This is actually showing you all the different hands-on labs that are available for Application Express. And what I'd like to do is actually just change this to Release 5.0 EA and click on Search. And you'll see that there's a lab that was done back in June, and this lab will actually take you through step by step on how to actually build mobile applications. So I'm going to be giving you a brief demonstration today, but I strongly encourage you to go into the Oracle by examples, and you can get to those directly by going to www.oracle.com/OLL. That was www.oracle.com/OLL, which stands for the Oracle Learning Library, and then you can just search for Application Express and you should be able to find this lab. The great thing about these labs is they give you step-by-step instructions together with great screenshots, so it makes it very easy to walk through these for yourself. If I go back to the OTN page now, and I'm just going to go back to our home page because I want to show you some of the other important information that you can find here. Namely, there's collateral, and on the collateral page you will find technical information. So there's various other pages that you can go to, including our statement of direction. There's also a number of white papers. So for example, if you want to integrate with eBusiness Suite or incorporate Oracle Access Manager, there's a number of different white papers that we have available that you can read through. We also provide a number of different presentations. If I just go back home again, then the last one I want to show you on this page here is deployment. And within deployment we have a number of tabs yet again. The first one is different aspects of installing Application Express. Then you've got one on upgrades, deploying applications. The one I wanted to show you in particular is user interface. This one here goes into more detail about user interface design, building mobile applications, responsive design, and a discussion on responsive versus mobile design. Now in today's session I've only been able to cover that briefly. I'd recommend you going to this page under deployments and then user interface to read more about it. Okay, so with that, let's get into the application builder. So I'm just going to sign in, and I've got access to multiple workspaces, so I'm just going to go into my developer workspace here, and this is the main home page for Application Express 5.0. Application Builder is where you actually go and build applications. SQL Workshop. The SQL Workshop is designed for application developers to be able to maintain database objects. So if you're on a hosted instance, for example, you may not have direct access to be able to run SQL Plus or a great tool like SQL Developer to be able to manage your database objects. So instead you can utilize the capabilities in here, such as the object browser, whereby you can see all the different objects. You can also create any new objects for the Oracle database in here. We also have SQL commands where you can run SQL directly against your schema. You can upload scripts within utilities. There's a number of different capabilities, for example a data workshop, being able to generate DDL and various other things there. For people who are new to SQL, then the Query Builder is actually a great way to be able to build multiple tables. So for example, if I was to select the orders and the customers table, the order items and the product information table, I can actually start joining these together. For example, I want to join the customer ID together. I want to join the order ID to get back to the order, and the product in for the order items here. Now I need to select the columns that I'm interested in, so I'm going to select the order total and the timestamp. I want the customer name, I want the unit price and quantity, and I also want the product name. And you'll see that it's been populating these. I can actually go and look at the SQL here, and it's actually built the SQL I need. Now if this isn't correct, for example, I might want to take out some of these components. I can easily do that, or I can run it, see the results, see if that's exactly what I was after, and then I can actually save that SQL and utilize it in a report, for example. The next major component is team development. And within team development, you can enter in milestones, features, to-dos. To-dos are basically just subsets of features, and bugs, and feedback. So as an application developer, you can turn feedback on within your application and allow your end users to provide enhancement requests, bugs, and general comments that you can then load into your development environment, which makes it much easier for your developers to get that feedback. The feedback also includes the page and session state information of where the user was when they submitted the feedback, and that can be exceedingly useful, especially for bugs, when you're trying to understand why the user didn't get the results they were expecting. One of the key things with team development is this is how we actually manage the development of Application Express. Now Application Express is actually built with Application Express, and we use this team development feature extensively to manage the complex development process. The last major tab here is Applications, and this is where you can access all of our packaged applications. And there's the productivity applications and then the sample applications, and these can be installed with a couple of clicks and waiting anything up to a minute or so to actually install the application. The last one I'd like to point out here is administration. So I'm just going to go into administration, and here's where you can actually go and manage your servers. You can add users, monitor activity, and look at your utilization reports. So I've logged into my workspace on Early Adopter 2, and the first thing I want to do is actually go and create a user for runtime. Now because of the fact we're using single sign-on, then I don't know the password for this, and it's a bit long to type in, so I'm just going to go and create a new user. It's actually easier. And I could fill in the other details, but we don't really need to. Just provide a password, and I don't want to have to change that password on first use. Next, what I want to do is go into the application builder, and you'll notice that there's this sample database application. So let's just go and have a look at that. If we have a look, this application has both a desktop and mobile user interface. And so if we limit it to just the mobile user interface, we can see that there's a number of pages there for mobile, and there's also a number of pages for desktop. So let's go and run the application. You'll see that I need to put in my username and password, and I'll log in, and because of the fact I'm running this from a desktop environment, then it's showing me the desktop pages. And so there's a number of charts and reports on this page. I can go in and have a look at customers. This is showing an interactive report. I can also do things such as uploading data. And if I click on a particular record, then it's going to a modal page to show the details for that particular record. If I now go over to reports and click on customer orders, because of the fact I'm running this on a desktop, I have Flash available, so this is showing me the Flash report and showing me the various details. If I scroll down the bottom, you'll see the categories for the report, and if I go into orders, you'll notice that there's this calendar, and this is my standard desktop calendar. So now over the side here, you'll see that there's this icon for mobile. I'm going to click on that, and it takes me across to the mobile user interface. The home page you'll see is very different. Instead of having a number of charts and reports, instead it's got a list. Because of the fact normally running this on a very small device, lists are very way to navigate around. If I click on a customer, Instead of having an interactive report, instead we have another list with name, credit limit and phone number. And if I drill into a record, then we go to a form which allows me to update that data. Now, unlike on the desktop applications where you've got tabs and breadcrumbs, navigation on a mobile device is normally done either by clicking on the home button or clicking on the back key. I'm just going to click on the home button and drill into reports, go to that same customer orders, and you'll notice when I'm running in the mobile user interface that this is rendering a HTML5 chart, and I've put the legend up the top so that we can see it before we start scrolling down and seeing data, but it's the same information being displayed. Again, if I go home and click on the calendar, here's our mobile calendar. We can actually click on any particular record. If there's a blue dot there, it indicates that there is records for that particular day, and you'll see that by clicking around we get to the different data. So if I go back into the application builder and want to go and create a page, you'll notice that it's asking me which user interface we want to utilize. If I leave it on desktop and click on report, you'll see that the options are interactive report, classic report, or report on a web service. And if I click on form, you'll see that I have form on a table with report, master detail, tabular form, and various other report types. However, if I change the user interface to mobile, then the options that are available to me change. So again, if I go back into report, now I'm seeing a list view, column toggle report, reflow report, and a report on a web service. Similarly, it's different if I click into forms. Now we have a form on a table with a list view, and we don't have things like the master detail and tabular form reports that we can select. It's important to remember that each page can only be a single user interface. It can't be both desktop and mobile. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is go into the packaged applications. The reason for that is there's a particular packaged application called sample reporting that I'd like to install, and I'm just going to click on install application and accept the defaults, and this can take up to about a minute to install. And now that my application's installed, all I actually want from this one is a table. I don't actually want to run this sample application, and I'm going to go back into my application builder and create a new application. So I would like to build a mobile application, and I just need to give this a name, and I'll call it projects. Next, and start adding some pages. So the first thing I want to add is a column toggle report, and I'm just going to link it up under the home page, and I want to use this EBA demo IR projects table and add that page in, and I simply want to change the name of that to be column toggle report, and I'll give that a sequence of 1. Next, I'm going to add a reflow report, and again under the home, same table, add the page, and I'll just rename this again. And then lastly, I'm going to create a list view. Under home, same table. This time I actually need to select the display column, so I'm going to select the task name, add that page, and call it list view. And simply go ahead and create my application. There's a summary of what I'm creating. And here's the various pages that have been created for me. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the column toggle report. And this is the page designer that's available with Application Express 5.0. And you'll see that the various columns here. And I can change around the particular columns here. For example, this one here I do not want to show the ID, and I do not want to show the row version number. With the project, I'm going to leave that as priority 1. If we scroll down, I'm going to make status and I'm going to make start date and end date 2, status 3, sign to 4, and cost and budget 5. And now I'm just going to run this page. Now you'll notice that this login page is different from the one that we saw when we were logging into desktop. The reason is this is our mobile login page, and so I'll just type it in. And you'll notice that it's displaying all of the columns currently. Now if I actually change the size of my browser and make it smaller, you'll see what happens as I start to get to the point where it can't fit all of the details in. Now we've lost the cost and budget. The other columns are wrapping as necessary to try and fit them in as best it can. As we get smaller and smaller, then the different priority columns get removed until such time as we've just got 4 columns here. Now if end users want to, they can also change the columns that are displayed by using this pop-up here. So I'm just going to use cost and budget, and so now I'm seeing those 4 columns instead of the columns that were selected by the developer. If I go back home and look at the reflow report, then in a very small user interface you'll see that it's actually changed the display significantly to be these label value pairs. However, if I've got a wide enough display, then we'll actually show the whole report. Again, if I go back and look at the list view, then this is now showing me a list view of the various records. You'll notice it hasn't loaded all of them. I can actually go and load some more here, and so it's not going to bring back all of the data at once. So I've created this very simple application. Now what I want to do is go back into Page Designer here, and I'm going to go into the list. So I'm just going to go to that page. When we come in, if we actually click on the region list view there, you'll see here's my SQL statement where I'm selecting everything out of that table. If I go and have a look at the attributes, you'll see that there's a number of different options that developers can set. I would like to actually go and set the list divider, and as soon as I do that, you'll notice that there's a message coming up telling me that I need to specify the list divider column. If I click on that, it'll take me straight down to there, and I'd like to actually incorporate the status. You can also see if I have a counter column, I could select that. I can also do things such as links. For the search, do I want to do an exact and ignore case, or do I want to do a like and ignore case is usually my preference. And what column am I actually searching on? I'm going to search on the task name. Okay, so now I'm going to save these details and just run the page. And you'll notice that it's now actually breaking it by status, showing me the task and the date, and showing me lots of information. I can also do a search. I'm going to search on SQL, and you'll see that there's a couple of records returned that include SQL. If I want to remove that search, I can just empty the field and hit enter again. Now I'm going to go back in, and I want to go back to page 1, and here's a representation of the page, and here's my navigation region, and this time I'd like to go and add a chart into that existing page. So I'm just going to grab it, slide it up, and I want it to be underneath this body. You'll see that it's gone black there. I can just drop that, and it's dropped in this new region for me. You'll see again there's a message here because of the fact it needs a SQL query, and I'm not exactly sure what sort of SQL query I need. So if I click on help here, it'll give me some useful information. And just looking at these examples here, I'm going to select this one here, code editor, and paste that in. For my example, I don't want to do a link, so I'm just going to remove that, put it to null, and I want to show the project and a sum of the budget minus cost. So I can see exactly how much money is left in the budget for each project. And the table name is EBA Demo IR Projects. And I'll need to do a group by. Project and order by project. Before I go, I'm just going to validate that I've written my SQL properly, which it's showing me I have. So I can accept that. And I want to call this project funds. Is the query I'm putting in. And in fact, I want to call the region project funds as well. Now that I've added that in, I'm just going to run the page. And you'll see now here at the bottom of this page, I have a chart running which is showing me the remaining budget in each project, and I can readily go back in and change the attributes of this particular report. For example, I'm going to switch it so that it's not 3D mode. I can make it a particular width or height. I'm going to change it to look 7, which generally looks better than look 6. Give it a title. And now just run the page. And you can see that that's looking better already. Next, I want to go back into Page Designer, and this time I'm going to add a new page. And I want to add in a calendar. Just call it Project Calendar. And again, I want to pick off my Demo IR Projects table. I'll leave all the columns there. Click Next. My Start Date column is going to be Start Date. With Application Express 5.0, I can also specify duration-based events, so I'll include an end date. I don't need to show the time as there's no time components on my data. I want to display the task name so I can see the month, the list, and the navigation. And I'll just click on Next and create my calendar page. Let's just run this page and see what it looks like. So you'll see that there's quite a number of different events for each of these days. If I select a different day, it changes all of my data and shows me what tasks are actually on those days. Because this is running on a public hosted server, then we can actually type in this URL directly into our cell phone and start playing with these applications. Now, the important thing here is these last 5 numbers that I've got highlighted, 17915, that's actually my application ID. Your application ID will be different, and you don't need the rest of this URL. If you're running this on an internal server, then you may well need to VPN in before you can run your mobile applications. Lastly, what we've been playing with today is our early adopter. If you'd actually like to go and start building applications for production now, then you can get started by looking at our capabilities capabilities within Application Express 4.2, and it's simply go to apex.oracle.com and click on this request a free workspace, and from there you can get up and running very quickly and easily and start kicking the tires with 4.2, start building out mobile applications. Just note that this is very much a development only service and you're not allowed to run production applications from this service. Lastly, what I'd like to do is just very quickly go to YouTube, and then I'm simply going to type in my name, and if you click on channel here, you'll find a number of videos that I've taken, and then down towards the bottom you'll see that there's these 5 videos that are related to Application Express 5.0 Page Designer. Now these are actually from Early Adopter 1, but they're still very useful for giving you a better overview of all the great capabilities that we're building out for you in our next release. Now it's time for the question and answers. I will be moderating the chat for the next 15 odd minutes, so please go ahead and enter in any questions that you have. I encourage you to go to our OTN site at otn.oracle.com/apex. The site for the early adopters is apexea.oracle.com. The hosted development service again is apex.oracle.com. The Oracle Learning Library is www.oracle.com/OLL, and then just search for Application Express and you should be able to find the 5.0 lab very easily, which will take you through building a mobile application from beginning to end. And I very strongly recommend you going and having a look at that Oracle by example and just going and playing with it and seeing what sort of things you can do. One of the key things to understand is when you're in the early adopter, this is not our production release. There are a number of different bugs that have already been reported and fixed in our development environment. There's a number of capabilities that we're still looking to improve before we actually make this a solid release. So please bear with us when you've run into difficulties and understand that we're working to correct those before we release Application Express 5.0 to the general public. Application Express 4.2 has been in production since December 2012, and there's a lot of great mobile capabilities in there. Obviously we're developing new functionality for Application Express 5.0, but you can still build very capable mobile based applications today and actually start deploying them out to your end users. So please go ahead and use the chat, and I hope that you've enjoyed this session today. I appreciate you spending time with me today, and this concludes our session. Thank you very much.